is Stuart Crawford, and welcome back to another edition of our MFP Success Stories show, part of the MFP show that we run here on Blog Talk Radio and across the internet. Today, we're joined by a former guest from our MFP show and a few webinars we've done, John Gambill Jr. from Go Concepts in Ohio. Great story to tell. Welcome, John. There's a lot of MFPs that listen to this program. They want to hear from seasoned vets like us. I was going to say old guys like us, but seasoned vet. Hey, how we get started and where things are going. And so, tell me the story. How did you get into this crazy world we call managed services?
First thing, Stuart, thanks so much for having me on the podcast, and always appreciate the opportunity to share our story. And if it in any way helps, whether that is inspire or guide somebody else in their journey in this crazy business, then hey, that's the goal. I mean, we're all in this together one way or another. So as far as getting started, I'll tell you, it's way back now. You talk about old, never feel as old as you are. My grandfather tells me so. 22 years ago, it's hard to believe, you and I were talking about that recently, that, it's hard to believe it's been that long. It goes fast. But back in 1997, the heyday of dial-up and ISDN and, the 56K hitting the market and all of that, here came Go Concepts. And where we came from is I was in the sales world. I had interest in computers. I was involved in computers and a little bit in technology, but I came from a sales background. Actually was in the real estate development business. Was managing an office with the largest real estate firm in Cincinnati. And then we were bought out by the largest one in the world and continued to manage for them and work with a number of people, and was developing subdivisions and doing a number of different things. And once we got with a company that big, to be honest with you, I just wasn't that happy. I really enjoyed, being in that business when it was small and kind of in a niche here in our area. But once we were owned by such a large company, it was really all bottom line, and it just wasn't for me. So, come from a small town here, Lebanon, just north of Cincinnati, south of Dayton, here in Southwest Ohio.
Home of Neil Armstrong, right?
Well, I'll tell you, it was his home after he landed on the moon. Yeah, he lived here, raised a family here on a farm just on the outside of town, and actually, ironically, had an office right here in our building on Columbus Avenue, US 42, one of the main drags right here in Lebanon. So we actually have Neil Armstrong Way here in town, and his son actually spoke to a graduating class, my son's graduating class. I got to hear him speak a few years back. So yeah, it just wasn't for me, and had an opportunity. I've been involved in a lot of things. I've been really, really fortunate. My grandmother was the original welfare director when they called it that. Now Human Services here in Warren County started that department. Building addition that they did there is named after her. My grandfather, after he came home from World War II, he was a parts manager at the local Ford dealer here. My father owned a gas station and repair shop. My mom was a fiscal clerk for Human Services. They ran the local baseball program. So to say I'm a local guy, born and raised and heavily involved in the community would definitely be an understatement. I've done a lot of things here. I was the men's soccer coach at the high school. And I was also the head of a group called Future Business Leaders of America. I was heavily involved in this when I was a student, continued to be involved in college. So the advisor of that was a mentor of mine, a close friend, kind of plucked me out as a young freshman when I had hair. I'd had my parents in school and had heard good things about me, and brought me in, took me under his wing, taught me a lot about life and just about growing up. And I owe a lot of things to him. And he's since passed, but he was a good man, Walt Simpson. Say if you say somebody's name, they're never gone. So sorry, I get a little choked up talking about him, but he was a good guy. When he was ready to retire, he said, "Hey, listen, I can't find a teacher to take this group over. I want you to take it over." And I was running a business at a time, running the office at the time, had a young son coaching soccer there, but because it was him, I did it. I had the opportunity to meet a young man named Dan Oliver. He was a student of mine, just incredibly talented, incredibly smart. He was actually a network engineer for the county here, working for what they call the data processing department. Started there when he was 14 years old, doing network administration and worked there. He was sharp. He came to me and, we worked a lot together in this Future Business Leaders of America, that and Future Farmers of America. It kind of battles back and forth for the largest student organization. He said, "Hey, listen, I'm involved with this group of guys. We've got this ISP. But we've got like 7, 8, 9 owners, something like that. I can't remember back then, but got a company with that many owners, it's tough to have a company, especially, when everybody's kind of doing their thing. And so he said, listen, I really want to build a business, and that's what I want to do long term. Would you be interested in doing something with me? So we got together. I talked to him. I said, hey, listen, let's talk about it. It piqued my interest because I was ready for something new. So we actually sat down. He put together kind of a business plan. We sat down in a local dive here in town. It's been torn down. It's a CVS now, but it was called the Tavern. A great place. I grew up going there. It used to be Pasquale's. I grew up going there with my dad when I was a kid. Met Glenn Campbell there, so that's my claim to fame with a famous interaction. But so we sat down there one Friday night and put this idea together on the back of a placemat, literally. Go Concepts was born. So Go is Gambill, that's me. O is Oliver, that's him. And Concepts completes the name. We ended up after that bringing in his neighbor and close friend who was a year older than him, who was just a great programmer. He was off to Purdue and he was a cross-country runner and running for them and just a tremendous programmer. So he was working with us, but the name had been set and his last name was Hollingshead, and Hog Concepts probably didn't really cover too much
Well, you are from Ohio. You are from Ohio, and Les Nessman would approve of that.
Well, you're exactly right. You have all of that going on in Cincinnati and connection there, but maybe we missed the boat on that one. But no, Go Concepts was born in May of 1997, so it's 22 years this month. So we're really, really excited about that. Just seen and been really, really fortunate to do a lot of things in that amount of time, and just watch. We've had so many employees, but just to watch these guys grow up. These young guys that I started working with back then. Now they're both. I don't want to say they're old. They're older. So married. Both of them have kids. They're growing up, living their lives, and it's been pretty special to be a part of it. That's really how it got started. Two young guys looking for an opportunity, sat down on the back of a placemat, came up with this idea, and we actually did the old MCI thing, Friends and Family, if you remember that advertising campaign that they did. And we put together our, we were three friends, and we brought in our families, and they believed in us, and they invested in this venture. They're what helped make it possible. So yeah, and our families are still shareholders today in the company. The Dans and I are the three principal owners, but they, as well as one of our key employees, are minority shareholders. So that's how it all got started.
But you weren't always doing managed services, right? You were doing other things, and we're going to get into some of the recent decisions you made for the betterment of Go Concepts. Back in those early days when you first got started, you mentioned internet service provider, and I know some of the history. What did you cut your teeth on, John?
Well, we started out as an ISP. We were doing, 56K was brand new then. We were doing 56K Flex. That was the flavor we were on. We had our dial-in boxes and our phone lines coming in. We were working. Sprint was the local phone provider. We ended up being a pretty large customer of Sprint. So we started out doing that, doing website design and hosting, and doing IT consulting. That's where we started. I mean, that first year, the one Dan was at Purdue. The other Dan, Oliver, he was actually up at Ohio State. So I was here holding down the fort, and we actually hired my brother, Joe. He was employee number one. Did a great job for us, spent a lot of times, in the office running things on his own, and he's since moved on. He is a IT director for a county health department, doing really well there, running his own operation, but he got that start with us, and we moved into, from the consulting into a number of different things. In fact, one of the really exciting things that we did and really kind of propelled us into probably the managed service area would be our municipality here, the city of Lebanon, made the decision that they were going to overbuild Time Warner's cable infrastructure in our area. We were outside the big metropolitan areas, and they didn't feel that they were getting the services and the upgrades and the latest and greatest that they wanted or that they should be getting to help drive economic development here in the community. So they decided they were going to overbuild Time Warner. They put that project out to bid. Multiple companies bid on it, and lo and behold, Go Concepts won it. We worked incredibly hard on that, did a tremendous amount of research, and we put together a very aggressive and what we felt was a great solution for them in our bid. They agreed. Actually, it was kind of ironic. Our bid turned out to be so so much better as far as a solution, they actually let everybody rebid it, which was kind of a little disappointing because then everybody got a chance to see our original bid and they made some alterations, but we were still, I think we had the best solution. They felt the same way. They brought us in and we took off helping them design and launch that project. So what is now the standard for cable, across the country, DOCSIS, that is, we were one of the first people doing that back in the late 90s. It was Time Warner, now Spectrum, Excite at home, and us, this little small company here in Ohio. So the big boys weren't really willing to share a lot of information with us. So we were doing a lot of that research and a lot of things here, using the expertise of our people. And some of the first DOCSIS head-end equipment from Cisco rolling off the line came to our office right here. And that's what, was either here or in the head end here for our city. And that's what connected the two. We began the venture of R&D and testing that and getting ready that to roll out. And we actually did the very first field or real world testing in my basement here in Lebanon. I just happened to live in one of the nodes. Cable works on a node system. And the node that serviced my neighborhood was the first one lit because it was all coax. So we set a lab up there, began testing, and then because before that everything was just tested in the head end. So that was our real world testing. We were ready to go to market with that service, and we were playing with a lot of the big boys. It was a lot of fun. We were doing a lot with Cisco, a hand serialized number 3 modem from Sony. We were working with some blasts from the past, 3Com, USR, companies that aren't around anymore, but that they were actually sending field technicians to our office here in Lebanon because they were wanting to test their new gear and new equipment out in the field, and everything they were doing was in the lab. So they would ship it out to us, have us test it. They would send people on site to gather data, and so it was an exciting time. We were developing that, getting that service up and running, really providing a great service to our community. And we worked with them to design all the fiber to connect to all the schools here in our community. And then we worked with them to develop and launch a voice over IP phone product for that network. So basically we were handling everything A to Z on that, everything from help desk all the way to all the back end services, head end support for everything on the data and the VoIP side. Then we were also doing some consulting on the RF combining and side of that. So jettison forward several years, the city made the decision that they were going to get out of that business. They sold that to a large telco, Cincinnati Bell. And Cincinnati Bell actually continued that engagement with us and actually expanded our role. So we continue with that service today. We support several thousand end users on that service, as well as continue to do all the head-end consulting on the RF combining and a number of different things. So in between there, with that help desk, obviously we were doing a lot of support, doing break fix for customers. We had our own hosting product, our own email. We have our own data center that we continue to maintain right here in Lebanon. So that really rolled us into that support model, a lot of consulting, a lot of outsourced support, and really brought us to where we are today, to being an MSP. We continue to run our data center as also a co-location facility. So we have customers that are co-located in there to get them, out of the IT business, or at least that trying to house that in their own office, because we bring a lot of bandwidth in here. They have 24/7, 365, two-factor authentication, authenticated access to the facility. It's monitored 24/7 video, audio. We have backup generators, everything that you would have in a in a formal large data center. We have it right here. And the great thing, that advantage that does for us, is because we do a lot of virtual private servers, server hosting for our customers now. But for any of them that are a little bit worried about the cloud, it's this concept, is this thing they don't know what it is or know where it is, and they hear all these nefarious things. We can tell them, hey, listen, we have the Go Concepts private cloud. It's right here in our data center. I can walk right downstairs. I can touch it. I can see it. If you want to come to my office, I can show it to you. So it makes it a little bit less of a concern for them. They start to understand the concept a little better, especially in the space that we play, which is pretty heavy in the government space. They're a little slower adopters. So it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable with their decision.
So that's great. I mean, it sounds like a really good, good start. You got yourself underway, And then I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit, John, to 2018 hits, right?
Yep.
You guys made a very critical decision in your business to highly specialize. And I know a lot of managed service providers fret over that decision about going vertical. And I know you and I have had lots of discussions on the pros and cons of that. And I know the journey that you went through because I was part of it. Tell me what were the driving factors behind you guys deciding to specialize in a particular industry where, if you look at it from a big picture, there's not a lot of business there. But I love how Doug Hazelman put it on another podcast you did. If you're looking at law firms and you targeted 90 or so law firms and you got a handful of them, you probably be pretty busy. But tell me about that, what you and Dan and the other Dan went through to really figure out this is the right path for us to go in. And I know maybe even time to ditch some of the legacy stuff from that got you to where you are today.
Oh, absolutely. And it started pre-18. We were working towards 18 for quite a while. We fell into that trap that a lot of companies fall into of trying to be everything to your customers, right? We didn't want to say no. We didn't want anybody else to touch that customer. And what that got us into was a lot of, one-off project research and knowledge that we wouldn't use again. Just wasn't a great use of our time, or our human assets. So we were working to make the decision, hey, let's focus on what we do well and let's get rid of all the other stuff. And let's look for partners out there that can help us in those areas of those things that, we don't do well or our customers need, trusted partners or vendors to be able to solve those problems. And let's just be the absolute best at what we do, which we felt were managed services, consulting. We have our own hosted exchange implementation, so corporate great email. And, we were really, really focusing in on those. So we started stripping off any of the other services. We ended up getting rid of our legacy POP email service, our legacy hosting service, actually dropping some customers that it no longer made sense. And that's always a tough decision for companies. Stuart, people have discussed that in our HPC group. That's the High Performance Club for you listeners out there. We're afforded the opportunity with Ulistic, and it is our peer group of like-minded MSPs. So great group, tremendous value that we get out of that. So, but a lot of people struggle with that of letting a customer go that may not be right for you. It's just like I think it's Carrie Pika that says all MRR is not good MRR. And if it's not right for you, then why do it? So we started taking a tough look at our business, and we went through a rebranding on our logo and tagline and all those things, and we were working with a company out of Columbus, not an MSP marketing firm, just a marketing firm. Good guys. And we sat down with them and they talked to us, they interviewed us, and they said one of these things that was a real kick to the gut, and it's stuck with me ever since. And in fact, I think Doug Hazelman, you mentioned there with MSP Voice, used it as the title for that interview we did, was succeeding in anonymity. And that's what they told me. They said, John, you know what? You're succeeding in anonymity. And you're sitting here and you're doing all these things and you're doing well and you're making money and customers are, telling you they're happy and you're growing. And then all of a sudden somebody tells you that nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what you're doing. You're doing all these great things and you're terrible at telling people about it. So, we made the decision right then, we've got to do something about it. The problem is we didn't. We tried to figure out, what to do. It just wasn't working. Great company. They just weren't focused or really interested in that MSP business. I come from that sales background, come from that marketing background, but I was more focused on working in our business instead of on our business and dealing with issues that were going on. So we made the decision that we had to have a partner that understood us, that understood MSP, that could help us get the word out, because we sit across from people every day telling them, focus on what you do best and outsource the IT stuff to us because that's what we do best. So we decided to take our own advice, and so we went out and we looked at all the top MSP marketing firms. We didn't care what the cost was. We didn't care how big they were. We didn't care if they were too big for us or anything. We just wanted to know who the best were out there, what they were offering, and we wanted to look at what was going on. That way we could narrow it down to see, what these claimed big guys that charge all this huge amounts of money, what they were offering versus other firms. And we narrowed it down to what we thought were just a few top firms. And we made a decision to go with a company that, and I'm not telling the story to give you a plug, Stuart. I'm just telling the story.
That's
but
fine.
but
I'm
you can
just
take it off.
listening.
You can take it off my bill later. So, but anyway, so we made the decision to go with a company that we felt was like us. Similar in size, similar in focus, similar in mission. The owners worked in and on the business. They were dedicated. They were heavily involved, and we were going to have access to them. And that brought us to Eulistic. That and working with Stuart and Missy and their team there. So we knew that they reminded us of ourselves, and we knew that it would be a good partnership. So we made that decision. Immediately came down to the quarterly meeting, got excited, to get involved, tried to hit the ground running. Stuart came out soon after that, and we sat down for a couple days here, locked in our conference room, talking about our business, what we do. Talked with some different employees to get an idea of, what we do, who we are. After hearing us talk about what we do, he said, "Listen, you guys should really focus on this single vertical." Well, that vertical was starting in 2013. Actually in 2012, they went live in January of 13, but in 2012, we signed them. Warren County Board of Development of Disabilities was looking to move from their in-house IT being provided by the county because they weren't getting the response and the current IT and all that they felt they needed. And great case study on our website, itfordd.com, that Stuart and his team did all about that situation and in their superintendent's words of how they came to us. They put a bid out. We won it. They brought us in. We hit the ground running there and quickly brought them up to current standards, hardware, best practices, helped them with their HIPAA compliance, you name it, and really brought them into the modern times as far as IT. Move them to our virtual data center, help them with remote access, which was critical to them because it really drives up their efficiencies, which is how they're able to bring in more dollars for their organization. And what we found is we loved working with them. We've worked with we've been blessed to do a lot over this 22 years for customers in the public and private sector, from very small to very large, from a few people operations up to, as I said, we've got a customer with several thousand end users. And we appreciate them. We continue to work with several of our customers, providing them great service today. But all of our efforts and everything going forward since then, and especially since our decision that day with Stuart, is in the developmental disabilities community. And not just in the county boards, because in Ohio there's 88 of those, but in all the ancillary organizations that touch them or that involve them. So the concern was, wow, that is such a narrow vertical market. I know, Stuart, I know you remember the discussion because I was really worried. Dan Oliver, he kind of had the feeling right from the beginning. I think he was comfortable with it and he was ready to go. D&H was kind of somewhere in between us, but I was hesitant. One, I didn't want to offend our existing customers. I didn't want them to think that, hey, we were switching gears and we were changing what we were doing and we didn't care about them anymore, or we weren't focused on them, because that's not the case at all. We're continuing to provide them the same great services they've always had and love dealing with them. But in that discussion with Stuart, he said, "Listen, you're just really passionate about this. I can tell, and I tell you love working with them." And he was right, or you were right. You told us what we probably already knew, that we're incredibly passionate. We don't get to work directly with the individuals they serve, but we get to help the people that do work directly with those individuals. We get to help them do their job better and to the best of their ability, and make it easier for them to do their job so they can. And we've got a tagline that Stuart's team put together. It's called "Focus on What Matters," and it really allows them to focus on what matters truly. And we worry about everything else. And our main tagline is "Don't worry about IT." And if you're going to put that out there, you really have to make your customers not worry about it. So that's what we try to do. We've provided all-inclusive service to them so they can really just focus on being efficient at providing the best service they can to those individuals that need their help to make their lives better. Our team loves it. Our team loves working with those people. They love interacting with the individuals they serve, as well as our clients and their staff. It's a special vertical to work in. And, I come by it. My wife is administrator of school. She's currently in charge of all the special needs programs, as well as Project Search, which is a program here in Ohio, working to place those students in job opportunities. We have special needs individuals in our family. So it's something that's very personal to my family and to me. And I know when I talk to people, they're like, wow, you really are passionate about it. And we love working in this space. But, back to the concern part of it, it wasn't just worried about offending those customers, because in talking with Stuart, we came up with a way to adjust that. We set up a separate website. We're running our main goconcepts.com website, which is in the process of a redesign and launch, but we launched itfordd.com. So it's just itfordd.com, and it's 100% focused on that community. And so all of our blog content is focused on questions, that concept of they ask, you answer. We're trying to help become the thought leader in that community to help them with anything we can that revolves around technology. So that is a great resource for them. All of our social media is geared towards that and providing out good content that helps that community. But what we found is it's a bigger pie than what we thought. It's not just 88 county boards. It is their private providers. It is the agencies that they work with. It's transportation companies. It is Easter Seals. It is a number of different organizations, not even mentioning all the vendors that service that. And we're actually brought on some of those vendors that sell into that space like we do, and helping them because they see what we're doing at those county boards, are really impressed. They're like, hey, can you do that for us? So that fear that we had, or that I had, or concern for our business, turns out to be not as big of a concern because, as Stuart, as you mentioned, Doug talking about, hey, if you're going after law firms really, and you get this many in the area, there's actually a lot more in this vertical. Once you get in there and really start analyzing it, there's so many people that touch on it and that you get exposure to than we ever contemplated. So it was a good decision. We're heavily involved with organizations that they all belong to, statewide organizations. We're able to speak and give presentations on things that help them, whether it's security awareness training and cybersecurity and those things, but also on helping them with their compliance when it comes to HIPAA. We really try to help them in every aspect of their organization when it comes to IT. It was a tough decision, but it was the right decision for our business. And, thanks goes to Stuart for help point that out and helping guide us there. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Hey, just all in a day's work. But John, I know that a lot of MSPs really struggle with that, and a lot of the same journey. And you and I, we've been on other podcasts and stuff where we talked about this, and I know a lot of guys just wrestle with that decision. And so I don't want to, kind of recap the decision-making process, because I think you touched on it very well here. But, what would you say to that MSP out there, saying, legal or healthcare or some other vertical, and they're just saying, I don't feel comfortable doing it. Like, what words of encouragement can you give? Because I'm like you, I'm a single vertical. I only work with MSPs, and I got a very clearly defined market. You can't be too small and you can't be too big. There's a sweet spot there that I know this place ain't too far from you, like that Louisville Slugger sweet spot, right?
Without a doubt.
If you pitch the ball and I hit it in that sweet spot, I can guarantee you can knock it out of the park. Where I struggle is if you're too small, because I'm not good at throwing Hail Mary passes. My name is not Jim Kelly or Aaron Rodgers or what's the redhead from Cincinnati who I have,
You're giving a little too much credit for Andy Dalton, but you are a Bills fan, so I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'm not very good at throwing the Hail Mary pass, and I'm not very good at working with large firms. I know the size of your company is where I love to play in. But what words of encouragement can you give to an MSP right now who's sitting there struggling, saying, I don't know if I can go that way?
I'll tell you, It comes down to, it's a risk reward thing, right? I mean, we're risk takers, we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners. And, my risk tolerance may be a little higher than some. I mean, hey, when I made the decision to start this company, I walked away from a very lucrative 6-figure career to start a company making nothing. I remember having that discussion with my wife, a teacher at the time, saying, Kim, that's my wife's name. Listen, I got this opportunity. I really believe in it. I think I'm going to take it. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for it. And
Wait, it was an
it was
opportunity
hard.
with an opportunity with a young guy who was just like,
Exactly.
yeah, who just had a lot of passion too, right? So there's
Exactly.
some stuff there to consider.
Exactly. And that's, so I'm a little bit of a risk taker, but, if you believe in what you're doing and you're willing to put in the work and the time, do it, and you have great people around you, that risk reward is definitely worth it. So the thing that we had in the discussion and what really helped and what we've actually seen. So it's not only what we talked about, but it's actually what has come to fruition is not just what I talked on, hey, the pie's bigger than what we thought and all those different things, but we are able to streamline our operations. We can focus what we're doing from an operations standpoint on those DD organizations and those customers. We know exactly what they need. We know who the software companies are that they deal with. We understand, at a core what every one of them is doing, what their mission is, what their goals are, their pain points are, those things. Now that's not to mean they're all the same. Each of those counties and those groups are, they have their own unique things, but at the basic level, they're all very similar and very the same. So our processes we can put in place are all similar. We know what it takes to onboard somebody. But the other thing that we can do is from a marketing standpoint, we can really tailor our marketing. So it makes it easier for us. It makes it easier for our partner, Eulistic there and Stuart's team. We can also say that we are the premier provider for county boards, private providers, and agencies, because we are. That is what we're focused on. That's what we do. We know them. We understand them. Our service is tailored to them. And, we have solutions completely designed for them. We are not if you need heart surgery, if you need brain surgery, you don't go to a general surgeon, right? You go to a neurologist, you go to a cardiologist. If you want services for a DD organization or a county board DD or related organization, you come to us. So that's how we're marketing against you. So if there's anybody listening that is a general provider and they're in Ohio and they're trying to pick up one of these organizations, we're going to be marketing against you that we are the experts in that market, because that is all we do, is provide service to those organizations. So it makes us, we think, the better choice. If it is apples to apples, a lot of times it isn't. It's apples to potatoes when it comes to all the things that we include and what we're able to do, because we understand them and what they need so well, that the decision will be made on, hey, I'm going to go with the team that really understands me, that gets me. We have one customer that is in that DD space. They actually bought out multiple months of their existing agreement to bring us on, because they liked so much of what we were doing for another customer that they were connected to, that was a mutual customer. They said, I want you doing that for me. And they met with us and they bought out their agreement to move forward with us. So it was flattering, but it also is a little humbling that people felt that strongly about what they see you do in another space. So it was that was really part of the decision-making process when we sat down and we talked about it. How does this benefit us? It benefits us from a marketing standpoint. It benefits us from a process standpoint. It benefits us from operations. It makes it easier to bring on new employees, because we're not trying to make them a general surgeon, let's say. I mean, they are really, we're able to show them exactly what they need to do, exactly what they're going to be experiencing. And that way anybody on our team can support any customer, no matter what it is. It's, it truly is a team effort. So coming from that government space where a lot of them are used to having staff provided by their county, they're used to knowing their names, they're used to being very personal with them, they get to know our entire team.
And we're talking with your new hire here very shortly. He came from that space. So when you were interviewing sales professionals, you really went into and tapped into that DD space. looking for somebody that had experience there, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And that was one of the keys. We were looking for a business development coordinator, and I know you and I talked about it before doing that. And you actually did, interview those people. And we ended up with a great gentleman that comes from the not-for-profit space and wealth management and fundraising, and a great background. But his wife has 25 years with a county board of DD. They both donate their time and support to DD related organizations. They spend a lot of time in, DD causes. So he has frame of reference. He understands the DD community, at an intimate level. So that was very, very important to us, that somebody was able to, to talk to them in a way that they understand and understand them. So yeah, so Ted's great. He's been with us for a few weeks now, has gotten tons of opportunities, which is awesome in a space that typically doesn't move very quickly